welcome back to my channel for another video. It has been 6 months since I got my Copper IUD, and I just wanted to make a video briefly talking about my experience with it, how it's going so far, and sort of why I chose it. So if you like this video while you're watching it, make sure and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, but let's just jump right into it. So I want to start by saying that I am definitely not a doctor. You should definitely weigh the pros and cons of different birth control options with your doctor and do your own research, but I just want to briefly tell you kind of why I chose the Copper IUD for our birth control method. And the biggest thing I wanted to do was find a method that was hormone-free. I have had one of the hormone IUDs and I had a pretty bad experience with that, and then I've been on a couple of different birth control pills, including the mini pill right after I had my daughter, and I never had a bad experience on the pills, at least not with all of them, especially the mini pill. I wasn't really having problems with it. But I just really wanted to get away from being on artificial hormones. I wanted my body to be able to ovulate normally. I wanted to have regular, real periods, and that was just really important to me, especially if we ever decide to have kids in the future. I just want my body to have been kind of functioning normally, and yeah, that was kind of my biggest goal when I decided to choose the Copper IUD. I also wanted something that I wouldn't have to think about daily or monthly. I didn't want to have to always be like doing something or thinking about something or running to the pharmacy to pick up my prescription and all of that. And so what's really great about the Copper IUD is it is good for up to 12 years. Once it's inserted, you don't have to get it replaced or really do anything. It's just there, and as soon as you want it out, you can get it taken out, and it's really like a one and done birth control option, and it can last up to 12 years. Another benefit is that statistically it has a much lower failure rate than other methods of birth control. The failure rate is only 0.6% for people that have the Copper IUD, and it is a bit higher for all other forms of birth control pretty much that are out there. I know a lot of them are very good and very effective, but this is one of the most effective ones, and so even though that's not necessarily the reason I chose it, that's a great benefit, just having that reassurance. So once I chose to get the Copper IUD, I had to make an appointment with my doctor, and she just did a physical, a pap smear, all of that stuff. They kind of do like an STD panel because you don't want to get it inserted if you've got anything funky going on down there. They just kind of make sure you're a good candidate for an IUD and make sure everything's kind of ready to go. Depending on what you're currently using for birth control, if you are, they'll schedule an appointment to get the IUD actually inserted following that. I think oftentimes they want you to come in when you are having your period because your cervix will be a little more open, so it's an easier and less painful insertion. I was on the mini pill and I wasn't even really having a period, maybe every like few months. It definitely wasn't any kind of regular period, so we couldn't really count on that. So we just decided to schedule an appointment, and after you have kiddos, your cervix will generally not close as tightly, and so it's a bit easier to insert it really any time at that point. So I did have an IUD, a different, like one of the hormonal ones. I did have that before I had my daughter, so I've had an IUD inserted like pre-baby and post-baby, and I know some people will say that they really hurt when they're going in, but I really didn't have a bad experience either time. With the first one, they did numb my cervix a little bit before inserting it, and I literally didn't feel anything. It was just like a slight bit of pressure, and then it was over. And then the second time around, they told me I could take like some Tylenol or ibuprofen or something before the appointment, and I actually totally forgot to do that, and still it was just like a little poke of pressure, and then it was really over, and it was not a bad experience at all for me, at least. I know that doesn't mean it would be that way for you, but for me it was super easy. I think oftentimes they will do it in like a surgically clean environment. I did it in kind of like their procedure room, but it's really just comparable to what everything will feel like when you're getting a pap smear. I was just like undressed from the waist down, and the rest of it just is very similar to a pap smear. So if you haven't like had it done, that's kind of what it's going to feel like kind of going through it. And then obviously do what your doctor says, and they'll give you kind of their list of procedures for like the day of. But if you're worried about it, just ask if you can, or if you should, take like a Tylenol or something that morning, you can always do that. Okay, so then as far as actually having it goes, I am very happy with it so far. Because there's no hormones kind of regulating your body, telling you when or if you should ovulate and then when to have a period, it really just lets your body start doing it on its own again, and so that can take a little bit of adjusting. And then I've heard a lot of people say that the first period they had, once they had an IUD inserted, was like really, really heavy and horrible. And that actually wasn't my experience at all. My periods before ever being on any kind of birth control were like on the heavy side, and then they were really irregular. It was definitely not down to like a certain amount of days in the month or anything like that. So naturally I was just kind of irregular, and my periods were like on the heavier side. And my first period after I got it was only 4 days long, and really nothing noteworthy. And since then, every period since then has been between 4 and 6 days long, and really no heavier. I feel like less heavy than I remember them being being on any kind of pill. So that's definitely not my experience. I know some people will have heavier periods, and that's one of the cons that a lot of people will say about getting the Copper IUD is a heavier period, but that hasn't been my experience. And then one kind of negative thing for me is that I went back to my totally irregular periods. My first few were like almost around the same cycle length, and so I was kind of like, cool, this is going to be maybe my body changed and my hormones changed. I'm going to have more of like a regular cycle now. But then when I had been having like 26, 27 day cycles, I had a 34-day cycle. It was like a super long cycle, and I actually for like a week I was like, should I take a pregnancy test? Like, might I be pregnant? Oh my goodness. And I was with my mom and my sister at the time, and my mom even picked up a pregnancy test for me, and I took it, and it was all like just for fun because I was like, I'm really not worried about it. But at the same time, it was just like my first super long cycle, and definitely compared to all the others since I had gotten the IUD, and so it did kind of throw me for a loop. So just be prepared that like likely I feel like your body will go back to maybe what it had been doing pre-hormones, or if you aren't on any kind of hormones, it probably will just keep doing what it's doing. At least for me, you know, my period was regular on like a normal birth control, hormonal birth control pill, and then on the mini pill I like didn't even have cycles, and then getting back to a hormone-free method, I am back to being super irregular. So it's anywhere from like 25 to 35 days in cycle length, but that is what I was before. So I definitely can't attribute that to the Copper IUD. That's just the result for me. Overall, I am very happy with it. It's been really stress-free, really easy. I have fully transitioned to a zero waste period, so I use reusable cloth pads and a menstrual cup, and I'm planning on doing a video just kind of talking about like my routine for that, like my period routine. So if you have any questions you want me to answer in that video, make sure and let me know below. But I think that is it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more lifestyle and mommy related videos. And I will see you guys next week. Bye guys!